Agentic workflows have completely changed the way we're building AI automation. Up until a few weeks ago, we had to use drag and drop platforms like Make.com or n8n to connect manually every node and hope nothing would break. That took us hours, sometimes days, but now we can do the same things 10 times faster without writing a single line of code. The problem is that most people watch tutorials after tutorials and end up confused because nobody ever explained how to build these things starting from the fundamentals. Which is why in this video I'm gonna break down exactly how Agentic Workflow work as simply as possible. We will build one live, I will use a platform called Antigravity, and I will give you the best prompt you can use if you are a beginner to start building anything for yourself. And if you don't know who I am, I'm Joe. I'm an ex-senior manager in big tech. I scaled my AI agency to 6 figures, helping more than 50 businesses transition to AI. And with that aside, get comfortable and let's dive straight in. Let's start by giving some context into what we used to do with the old way of building AI automation. So using platforms like n8n or Make.com. And let's give some context in what is the new way of building this platform, which is through Antigravity and these new IDEs, right? Claude Code or whatever. So in the old way, we used to build an automation dragging and dropping nodes. What does it mean? It means that first of all, we had to know exactly top to bottom what was that we wanted to build because we had to map it on paper. And so initially we had to think about this automation and think, okay, let's imagine that we want a trigger, so the automation needs to start at a specific time, then needs to go inside my, HubSpot to take some leads, then I have some condition, then I want them in Notion, and then I want to tell my team how the workflow is processing or what is the current status, right? So we can clearly see that the old way of building this automation was quite complicated because you would spend, first of all, hours and hours and hours in trying to get better and trying to understand also how these nodes would be integrated one another. And then you would spend again other hours and hours and hours in making sure that all of the nodes were talking one another. Because in order to connect n8n to HubSpot, you would need to go through the API documentation, understand how it works, then find the right things to connect, then integrating it in n8n, then figuring out if the data that you receive is correct or not, and etc. We understand that here, every node, every connection, and every setting is all configured by hand. So it really requires some degree of technical expertise in order to be able to be performed. Now, what is the big difference with the new way? So here we're basically building the code ourselves, right? But what we are doing now with these new IDEs, we're gonna walk you through Antigravity, but there are many others like Claude Code and etc., is that we start giving some initial prompt in natural language. So the only thing that we will be doing is literally talking to the agent, and the agent, what we'll do is we'll understand whatever it is that we're asking. Then it will create a task, so a series of bullet points that it needs to implement autonomously in order to perform the task that we want. And then it will, once everything is sorted, it will ship it. And what we will obtain at the end is basically a series of tasks that are all ticked. So it means that the agent went through them step by step and implemented all of them. And we have our workflow running. So what we have at the end is exactly what we asked in the beginning, with the difference that we don't need to write a single line of code in order to perform these activities, right? Because the agent will do it for us. So that is why one sentence in and you get out the working automation or workflow that you are trying to build. So think about it this way, and this may help you understand it. And to do this, let me give you a peek of what we're gonna do just in a few seconds. Think the AI agent as a chef. What does the chef need in order to produce, the best food in the world? It needs a recipe. And the recipe, in our case, will be a prompt. So just to give you some understanding, in order to create all of this presentation, this is the prompt that I used, and I will give you the best prompt that will help you out also in crafting better prompt for your agent, right? And then once we have this, we will simply ask the AI agent, hey, I want to produce X, Y, and Z. Please help me. And the AI agent will start producing the presentation in this case that I just showed you. So with that said, let's start downloading Antigravity. So in order to download Antigravity, you're just gonna go here, you're gonna press download. In my case, it's for Mac, and then you're gonna press download right here, right? Once you have downloaded it, this is the interface that you are going to be displayed with, and you're gonna press open folder. And what you need is basically to create a folder that will contain all of your projects. So the folder is also called workspace, and everything that we do will be produced there. So in my case, I'm going to go to Antigravity. I created an empty folder, so I am gonna open it. So in here, there is exactly the prompt that you will find for free in the description down below is inside my community. So in order to find it, just go in my community. You will go in the classroom sections, tutorials, and it will be this one. So the new way to build AI automation, and you will find it right here. And just for me to quickly walk you through the prompt and what it is, it's the following, right? We made the example of the chef before. So we say, hey, you're operating within a 3-part architecture, which is my architecture, is rules, brain, and implementation. You're basically dividing the agent in 3 parts. Rules is a series of files that are written in natural language. So it's what I call SOPs, right? Written in Markdown. Then, and here you have that per each rule, you need to have the goal, required inputs, scripts, things to expect, and etc. Then you have the brain, so when and why things happen. And here it just tells the LLM, hey, use your brain. So in our case, we will be using, I don't know, Claude Sonnet or Gemini, etc. in order to build something. And then you have the implementation layer, which will be, again, right here, another folder that you will see pop up with written implementation, and it will contain all of the scripts that we will be using in order to produce the agentic workflow. So in here, we will just have the execution script. And the reason is that we want just to isolate, the things that we write in Markdown. So our recipe versus the tools, and so the instruction, and therefore the things that we use in order to cook. So the knives, the plates, and so on, right? So the implementation layer is basically our tools, and the rules is basically our recipe. Okay? And then you can see and go check it out. So the first thing that you will do once you copy paste my prompt in here and you import it as a markdown file, so you're going to call it either copy paste it, either you're going to call it gemini.md, right? And this will create a markdown file for you, and you're going to just copy paste the things that you've written. Here, we will go into planning mode because we want the agent to start planning something before it executes. It's much better. And here we can select the model. So in our case right here, you need to be very cautious because there is written generous weekly rate limits. We don't really know what this is. No one really does, actually. So be very cautious because you will run out of credits very fast. Also, if you move further up with the paid plans, you are even more generous, but there is not really an amount that they are actually giving us. So what I would do if I were you is I would go into Claude Sonnet just to keep my tokens for Gemini, and I would start with the initial prompt. So in order to find the initial prompt, you can go back to my community and you can literally copy paste the first prompt that I have right here. So I'm going to give you a website of a roofing company, research their top 5 competitors, find their names, website pricing and reviews, and save everything into a Google Sheet, right? So here we're gonna press send. And what the agent will do now is that it will start generating the prompt. And as we discussed before, the first thing that it will do, it will start creating that tasks that we were saying, right? The green ticks. And then once the tasks are created, we will see also the implementation plan, which is exactly how it plans to implement whatever it is that we're giving. Okay, so here it mentions, hey, you mentioned a URL. Could you please share it? Okay, we can go to Google, find literally the first one that I have right here. So no affiliation whatsoever. So we're going to go to their website, get the URL, and then we're going to paste it right here. And we're going to press enter. So what you're going to see after this happens is that the agent will start producing, first of all, the list of tasks that it needs to perform in order to solve the problem that we gave it. And then eventually it will produce also what we call the implementation plan, which is exactly how it plans to solve and create the workflow that we just give it. You can clearly understand also that only by looking at this prompt, we don't really need to know how we're gonna build these things because the agent will build it for us. So you can clearly understand that in the new way and in the new world, let's call it like this, that it's approaching, the technical knowledge will not be as relevant when it comes to building something. What matters more is the ability to, first of all, understand the business, and second of all, to position this knowledge in a way that clients will want to pay for your service. So the ability to sell is actually what will make the difference in case you're planning to start offering AI services. So now this agent is running, and this is as if we were working in our first, NA10 module. Now, before this finishes, let me show you one thing. So in the top right-hand corner right here, you will see Open Agent Manager, right? And here you can press it, and what do you see? You see that here you have the possibility of running a new conversation inside the same, right? So new AI automation and new AI automation, and we see that this one is still running. And what can we do now? We can go inside my Skool Community, take the second prompt, go back here, and we can paste it, and we can press enter. So find 20 roofing companies in city, UK. Actually, let's put London, that have less than 50 Google reviews, and let's extract their company name, website, and etc. and put them in a Google Sheet. And now what we're gonna have is that we're gonna have two agents that are actually running in parallel. What does it mean? It means that we can now build two things at the same time. And where can we control these two things? From the inbox manager. So we see here that the roofing competitor analysis right here is running, and it's asking me to allow something. So I can go right here and I can say allow this conversation, and the agent will start running again. Because if I go back here, I see that it was initially stuck and now it just proceeded, right? So I can now allow, and we can continue, right? Now, if you want to avoid continuously allowing your agent to do something and you want to do it automatically, you can simply go in these settings right here, press editor settings, and you can type, I misspelled it, Claude, and you can allow bypass permission mode, recommended only, and etc. So if you press this one, then it will be able to, bypass permission, and it will go on without your approval. Now, it did a lot of changes. It created, what we were discussing at the beginning, which is the recipe in order to do this. So competitor research, Google search, and etc. We're going to accept the changes, and then we will let the agent continue running on its own. Now, just for us to see what we were discussing before, you can see that right here we have the tasks, right? And so we have that the agent is slowly ticking everything that it needs to do in order to perform the task. And here, before that, there was the implementation plan. So it really understood, okay, we need Google Auth credentials, we need this, we need that, and this is how the structure of the folder will be, right? With rules, we're gonna have 2 sub-rules, companies, layers, implementation layer. And you can now understand that the technical barrier is really becoming lower and lower and lower, because all we really need to do is to be able to articulate in proper English what it is that we actually want. So now one thing that I wanted to show you is that actually the model is now going inside Google Maps and checking here the location in order, and this is live, so you see that we're not touching it. But it's checking all of the locations in order to find the right competitors and in order to scrape what we were discussing, which is the 5 stars and etc. with the specific filters that we had in our prompt. So you see here how powerful this actually is, because it's literally scraping the web and doing everything we want simply with one single prompt. Okay, so from this we can actually see that the 5 competitors that we wanted from our initial prompt are actually scraped. We have our Google Sheet with company name, website, key services, pricing, review count, review platform, accreditation, experience, location, and notes, right? With some stuff right here. So the first is actually done. Now we're just waiting for the second. And here should be the second workflow that finished. So we're gonna press this and we actually have everything that we wanted extracted. And we see that here we extracted company name, website. We don't have phone and address. We have the Google review count, and we also have the contact email. So what we're gonna say is simply something along the way of, we're gonna take a snippet, then we're gonna go back here, paste it, and say, hey, I am noticing that phone number and address are really not appearing. Can you please fix that? And simply by saying this and prompting the LLM will do what we call self-annealing process, which means that it will understand that something is off and it will find a plan to fix it and fix it alone, right? So all we really need to say is, okay, versus the output that we wanted, we didn't get the expected output. So there is this thing that is not working. So please go ahead and fix it. Also, by the way, if you wanted the workflow to be faster and better once it finished, you would simply ask the LLM, hey, this is taking too long. Please make it faster. Or, hey, I'm spending too much on API credit. Find a way to make it cheaper. And literally by prompting, you can actually build anything that you want. And here we go. Now, for obvious reasons, I would cover phone number and address, but here we go. We have the full data set, and all we had to do is simply to tell the AI agent, hey, we didn't get what we wanted. Can you please check back and see if you can find another way to check these out, right? Now, for these emails that we don't currently have, we could either use some other software, or if we didn't want to go with the info at and we wanted the CEO, we could use some other platforms and etc. Now, because of the fact that the agent used Google Maps and a free service, we're not going to be as accurate, right? But it really depends on which are the software that you plug and play in order to build these things, right? So the output will be so much better are the software that you use and the input that you will give the agent, right? So congratulations for making it to the end of the video. If you want to learn more about Agentic Workflow, I made a 3-hour free tutorial in my channel, so go and check it out. And if you are a 9-to-5er saying, hey, I build these things, so how do I make money from it now? Check the first link down below, which is the link to the one-to-one mentorship program that I have to help you build and scale your own AI agency to 10K a month or more. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next